Oh, well, hello again from my front porch. I was actually just sitting here reading. Uh, I work in the construction industry, and there's been some chatter about things going on in the world today and how it impacts construction. It's not just construction, it's others as well, but the concept of the immigration issues, how we're cracking down on illegal immigration and the efforts that are being done by the Trump administration to deport illegal immigrants apparently has also had the impact of reducing immigration itself. We're seeing some historically low numbers of people crossing the border, legally and illegally, which is kind of the point of that whole approach to that. So in that sense, I guess you would say it's successful. What I was just reading about and what has come up in discussions, because being in the construction industry and being involved with some other organizations, I hear what's going on with other companies too. And there is some angst about the loss of workforce because of these issues. And it's not just in construction. Those things come up in other industries also. We've heard it from farm companies and farm owners worried about the loss of their farm laborers. We've seen it from places like rendering plants and packing houses and meat processing plants and those kind of jobs that are not the most pleasant, but someone's needing to do them. Service industry things like housekeeping. I'm at this nice hotel here in Louisville, Kentucky right now, and they have really great housekeeping staff that take care of things here. But the service industry folks that are doing that kind of stuff are also talking about the loss of some personnel. And it's not just the lack of personnel. The real issues that often come up, though they're not touted as loudly because of frankly, how bad it would make the company look, is the issue of the cost of those workers. Because reality is, there are workers out there who can do the work, just not for the price that we were paying for them. Now, I'm fortunate to work for a company that values its workers and pays its workers like we value them. But not all companies do that. And certainly not all those companies that you hear about and see about complaining about the loss of the workers. Some of the farm labor types and some of the packing house companies. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not trying to besmirch or badmouth anybody. I'm just saying there are a lot of examples of individuals who were being paid a substandard wage in exchange for getting paid, say, under the table or getting paid cash, and nobody really worrying about their legal residency status, not even citizenship, because you can be a non-citizen and still be legal to work, but you have to go through the channels, you have to go through the processes. And there are a lot of these industries and a lot of these areas complaining about the loss of their workforce that weren't really following those rules either. That if we're completely honest, they were, I'm going to use the word, they were exploiting illegal immigrants. You're here illegally, you have no real recourse, so I can pay you cash, I can pay you subvertly, and you're not going to complain about what I'm paying you because you, number one, need the job, you need the money, and number two, you have no legal status. If you complain, they're going to know you're here, and therefore you're going to keep your mouth shut. So I can get away with paying you less than I would have to pay somebody who was legally able to work or a citizen. Because if you're a citizen here in the United States, you have certain expectations as to what you're going to get paid. You're not going to accept the very low wages that some of the undocumented illegal immigrants were willing to do the work for. But now that those workers are concerned that ICE might show up at any point in time, scoop them up and haul them away and ship them back home, they don't want to show up for work. the whatever amount they were getting paid isn't enough to warrant them getting caught in that fashion. And the pretty regular flow of people coming across the border, especially illegally, seeking opportunities to do this kind of stuff in the United States, again, has shrunk way down because of this same concern. Well, the risk does not outweigh the reward anymore. And again, that was kind of the point. So I'm not quite sure why anybody would be surprised by that. Critics of the Trump immigration policies, of course, also know that this was always the point, and they will say, and we tried to warn you, we tried to tell you. But I want to pause just a moment. I want us to really ponder what this all means, and the stuff that I'm reading about companies that are wringing their hands over the loss of, they don't say the actual phrases, but they dance all around it, the loss of the cheap labor, because in order for them to still do their work, they're now having to hire other workers, other meaning legal workers, and they're having to pay those workers more, which means the cost of what they're doing will have to go up. It's going to result in higher prices because the wages that they're having to pay are higher. That cost will get passed on to the end consumer as it always does. And so the I'm going to say scare tactic that's being used is to say all this needs to stop. All of this is bad because it's going to hit you in the pocketbook, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer. It's going to cause your prices to go up. That's why this all needs to shut down. We need to, the Trump administration needs to back off and stop doing all this kind of stuff. Okay, but even if you don't like the idea of the deportations, which, I mean, if I could take just a quick aside, people are frustrated at how many deportations the Trump administration has done. They're frustrated about the fast tracking of those deportations, supposedly violating due process rules. But the reality is many of the rules that are being used by the Trump administration to implement those things were actually put in place during the Obama administration. I'm not making that up. You can go look at it. Google is a really great tool. Go look up Obama administration deportation policies, and you will see that the Obama administration actually put into place the policies that allowed leapfrogging over a whole bunch of rules, a whole bunch of steps to take somebody who is here illegally and kick them back out of the country. The Trump administration is just building on that foundation that was already created under the Obama administration. So, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's not like the Trump administration made this stuff up. It was already there. So for me, the real issue isn't even really just the deportations. For me, the real issue is we have entire sectors of our economy that were apparently built on cheap, exploited labor. That's wrong. And the irony is, being a student of history, actually being a former history teacher, I am very well aware of the fact that when we were going to eliminate slavery in the United States, that the southern states who depended heavily on their slave population, who did not, in almost all cases, a few cases they were treated well and even were compensated in some cases, but that was definitely not the norm. In most cases, they were treated as cattle. They were treated as property, as not even being human beings. They were things. They were basically farm implements. And it was because of their work and not having to pay for them, just doing as minimal care and upkeep of them as necessary, but that was it. Because of their work, the South was able to build up its industry on the cotton fields and other ways. And so when the whole concept of ending slavery was up, of course it was the southern states who objected, not because just that they thought, well, the slaves are not equal to us pale people. There was that, obviously, very racist mindsets, but also because they were worried about the economics. If I don't have these slaves anymore, or heaven forbid, I have to pay these people to do the work that they're doing right now for me without pay, I'm not going to be able to make the kind of money that I make now. I might not even be able to make money at all on that. And I certainly won't be able to live the way I'm used to living. Therefore, I cannot allow this to happen. I have to stop this because economically, it's going to hurt me. That's this is not going to make some people happy, but that's the same sounding argument that I'm reading in these news stories, kind of some between the lines of what is being said, because business leaders aren't stupid. They know that if they go too far, people will directly make these comparisons, and they don't want that to happen. They don't want that to reflect on them. But when I see stories about business owners concerned about how the deportations of illegal immigrants and the chilling impact that is having on new workers migrating. They don't say illegally, but that, it's the context. That it has a chilling effect on new workers migrating, that's going to have an impact on the price at the end for the consumer. It's an attempt to get each of us as the consumer to say, oh, hold on, stop. Let these illegal immigrants be able to keep working for these entities who want to pay them these substandard wages and treat them not as bad, hopefully, as slaves were treated back before the Civil War. But I wouldn't really necessarily say a whole lot better either. One or two steps above, perhaps, because they are actually getting paid something, but working conditions still may not be the best. Because again, the workers in that scenario are not in a situation to complain. They're not going to unionize. They're not going to, they're not going to push back. And that employer knows that and depends on that. And so when we say, oh, no, we don't like all this, why, we feel bad for that employer and we don't want our prices to go up, what we're really saying is we're okay with the status quo of what has been, where these individuals have been exploited. I'm not okay with that. I'm going to go back to reading some more, but I just had to share this, one of these get it off my chest things while it was on my mind. So with that, I'm going to get back to my reading, and I'll let you all go. And I'll see you next time from my front porch.